Have you ever complainingly said that the PCs took my adventure in a direction I was not prepared for? I think we've all been there. You can't prepare for everything, but proactive DMs anticipate problems and plan ahead, while reactive DMs wait for things to happen and then scramble to respond. If you'd like to be the former, keep watching. What's going on there, Dice Rollers? I'm Paul. I'll be your DM for a while, and today I want to talk to you about 8 proactive habits every Dungeon Master should have. I want to help you get ahead of things so that you're not always reacting to things. Now listen, it's the nature of a DM to react. Players are going to do things and you have to react to them. But there are situations that we get into that can be avoided if we'd simply take some proactive measures. And these are the habits I want to talk to you about today. I do want to say that I am giving away a book in this video, and it is called Proactive Role-Playing. It is by my friends over at Topics Media Lab. They are the ones who produce these fantastic books. I'm going to be giving this one away in a future video. So if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, be sure to go ahead and click the subscribe button down there, and then you'll be notified when I do videos, and you can get in on the giveaways. So the first habit I want to talk about for Dungeon Masters is knowing your adventure. Listen, as a DM, we have one job. Well, we have 20 jobs, but our main job is to know the adventure we are going to run. If you've run the adventure before, that's one thing. You have an idea and have a handle on how that's going to go. But if it's brand new, pre-written stuff, have you read it through entirely? Or at least the elements that you're going to run for that session? Have you made notes? I mean, even if it's your homebrew setting, you have to have an idea of things, right? Of how magic works, what the environment's like, anticipating what your players are going to ask you about your world. These are the kinds of questions you want to answer so that you're not reactive or have to make up things on the spot, even though this is a fantasy role-playing game and we make up things all the time. I'm running Castles and Crusades for an upcoming con, and so I've created my little folder here. As you can see here, I have made some notes over here, and I've also highlighted certain areas in the adventure that I know I'm going to need to pay attention to. So I'm being proactive in knowing my adventure, knowing the rules, so that I am not tripped up by my own ignorance. I'm still going to have to react to what the players are going to do. I don't know the players that are coming to the table. Me knowing my stuff is going to make my job easier at the con. I like this quote by Tim Ferriss, author of The 4-Hour Workweek. He says, "I think that whenever you feel reactive or being reactive as opposed to being proactive, that inherently, consciously or subconsciously, creates a lot of stress." And so for me, I don't like being stressed out, so I'm going to know my adventure, know the system, know the rules, so that when I show up, I'm ready to game. The second habit of proactive DMs is knowing your players. Are you running the game for the same group of people, different group of people? Every session is different, and knowing your players well will keep you from feeling like your players are not invested in the game. Hanker Infernale of Runehammer says that player investment is a metagame. It's what's happening before the game, after the game, and in between the games that builds player investment. Show your players that you are invested in them as contributors to what happens at the table and that you want to see their characters, should the dice fall their way, succeed. This kind of proactive effort will help you reap rewards in and out of the game. Habit number 3 of proactive DMs is knowing your players' characters. Do you know your players' characters? I don't mean just their stats, but do you know what makes them tick? I do my best during a game to take notes on characters' phrases, their goals, their dreams, likes, dislikes, and relationships, and do my best to work them into the campaign or game I'm playing. The worst thing I can do is ignore someone who has put a fair amount of time into their backstory only for me to ignore it. I recently had 2 players who sent me their characters' backstories, just a few paragraphs, and I'm going to mine them for ways to ground them in the world, which only deepens player investment. I don't try to bring everything I've learned from those backstories into that particular sessions, but I may skip a session and do a callback from a previous session. This lets the players know that I'm actually actively listening and understand the game they want to play based on how they've built their character. The fourth habit of proactive DMs is getting a grip on your calendar. And here's what I'm going to say about this. I'm going to give you 3 quick words of wisdom. Number 1, unreliable DMs don't get asked to run games, let alone be paid for them. Number 2, I live by the adage, either you fill your calendar or somebody else will. And number 3, proactive Dungeon Masters must show that the schedule is important or no one else will. So I keep a paper calendar, write down these important dates, and unless it's an emergency, I don't change those dates because my players that want to play are counting on me to be there. Habit number 5 of proactive DMs is being able to handle difficult play at the table. Listen, maybe you've had a character die, or maybe the adventure is slowed down to a grind. If it's the former, well, you have a plan to get that player back involved after saying goodbye to their character. If it's the latter, talk with your players and ask them after the session, where do you think we're at in this campaign? Is it still fun? Should we change things up? And the one thing you can't do is ignore either of those situations. You can't ignore difficult situations at the table, and you can't ignore it when your players are not having fun. And let me say something about difficult players. Handle difficult players away from the table unless there's severe bad behavior, and then you have to deal with it in the moment. But I live by the adage that, listen, praise in public, correct in private. In other words, if you want players to behave in a certain way, role play, teamwork at the table, then reward them with kind words or affirmations. Or, as I do, I give them a bottle cap as a point of inspiration for a reroll. I also give away bottle caps for bad puns and good puns and puns. And if it's a really, really bad pun, then I take it back. And in doing this, I reinforce good game behavior in the hopes that they will most likely repeat it. And when I correct in private, it may be for a player who's hogging too much of the spotlight. And in-game, I'll just say, okay, we're going to move on from your character and we're going to move over to Bindle. Bindle, what would you like to do? But if a player's behavior is egregious and you have other players complaining about it and it breaks the social contract you've set up at the table, then a conversation away from the table is appropriate. Now, this habit may not come naturally to you because you don't like conflict, but this is exactly what a DM has to do to keep players active in their game and keep that game table healthy. So don't put either of those off. Don't put off praise and don't put off correction if it's needed. Be proactive and your players will thank you for it. All right, everybody still with me? Are you okay? Do you need to go to the restroom? Do you need a drink? Go take care of that and come right back, okay? Because remember, we are doing the book giveaway at the end of the video. All right, you ready to keep going? Okay, good. The 6th habit of a proactive Dungeon Master is touching base with players. Do you ever get that feeling like all your players may not show up to the game? I get that feeling. In fact, I tend to lean towards the fact that not all my players are going to show up. So what do I do then to mitigate that? How can I help and encourage them to show up this week rather than choosing a different option? Well, I try to stay away from closed questions like, hey, is everyone going to make it this week? Because I don't want my players to think this is just another task or another job that they have, but I want it to be a joy for them and a relief to the end of their hectic week. So I'll shoot a text or a message out, including some of these open-ended questions, like who's ready to sling some spells this week, or what's everyone most excited about this week's session? And asking these open-ended questions allows my players to either freely reschedule for another time without all the extra pressure, or to talk about the adventure in some way that I can encourage them that this week's session is going to be epic. The 7th habit of proactive Dungeon Masters is having your tools together. I have a pregame checklist of common things I know that I need for a particular session, as well as some things that are unique to that session, like terrain, minis, etc. The night before my game, I go through my checklist to make sure that my game bag is packed and that I have not forgotten anything. And the 8th habit of proactive Dungeon Masters is rest. Physical, mental, and emotional rest are all, in my opinion, critical for game prep. Now, I've run plenty of games on half a tank of energy, and it's not fun for me, and I'm sure it's not fun for you, and it's certainly not fun for my players. So I try to make sure I take a nap or shut off my mind for a little while and take a few deep breaths before taking my place at the table. Because we all have only a certain amount of energy and bandwidth, and so we have to save that energy for that 2, 3, 4 hour session we may have running our game. So remember, take a little rest and go into that game full of energy and optimism. Now, I don't want to make it sound like I get all of these things perfect every time. I certainly do not. But being proactive is my default mode, mostly because I hate failing and failure and looking stupid. And my hope is that it will become your default mode for a happier, stress-free gaming experience for you and your players. I love this quote by John Maxwell. It says, if you're proactive, you focus on preparing. If you're reactive, you end up focusing on repairing. Wise words to end with. Be proactive, not reactive. So how are we going to do this book giveaway? It's real simple. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment. And when you do all 3 of those things, I will go through the comments and I will pick a winner. I will do a drawing and I will announce the winner either in the community post and maybe as a part of my next video. But that's it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let me know down in the comments which of these proactive habits are you best at, and which one do you need to work on a little? And if you're looking for some more DM tips, by the way, right over here, I got videos. And that's it for today's video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.